Brian Roisentul here. I'm the host of the Fit Growth Machine podcast, where I talk with top leaders in the fitness industry. In today's episode, among other interesting things, we are going to discuss why it's really important to know every single aspect of your company in order to succeed. But before introducing today's guest and talk about all that awesome things, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. At BSR Digital, we help fitness brands that want to scale their businesses to the next level through Facebook, Instagram, and Google Ads. BSR Digital knows that most e-commerce brands want to grow their sales, but they lack a solid plan and professional team to help them succeed. That's why BSR Digital offers strategic plans, implementation, optimization, and ad account audits to help more than 1,000 e-commerce brands like yours grow their businesses and surpass their competitors. To learn more, you can visit them at bsrdigital.com or you can email them at hello@bsrdigital.com. So, hey, today I have Paul Guzman. He's the Director of Marketing and Distribution at BatCaddy. Hey, Paul, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. Excited to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, why don't you tell the audience about your story?
Oh, my story. So 30 some years ago, my journey into where I'm at today began when my parents decided that high school is not the place for me anymore. I was not a particularly good student, not because I didn't know the information, I just didn't like doing the work. So my parents actually gave me the option to take high school through the mail back in 1988, somewhere in there. And so I got my first full-time job at 15 and started working. And I found that to be much better than high school. So I did that while I got my diploma through the mail on the side. And, it was a really interesting journey for me to where I'm at today with BatCaddy as the director of marketing and distribution, which those 30 some odd years ago, my first job was actually as a dishwasher at an Italian restaurant. And so that has been a long, winding journey for me through several different industries and trades to end up where I'm at today, which is in the golf industry, which is something that I absolutely love and never imagined I would be able to finish out my career doing that. So it's been pretty eventful throughout those years.
30 but I always love reading between the lines and trying to understand everything that involves doing, I don't know, anything in life. In this case, education by mail. How does it work? I mean, it sounds tough.
Yeah, well, in 1988, they would send you the textbooks. So I would get these huge textbooks in the mail, and they would send a workbook with it. And in the workbook were the actual tests. And technically it was all open book anyways, because they knew there was no way to not do that. And they just kind of depended on you to learn the information.
Yeah.
So for me, that gave me the opportunity to just go as fast as I wanted, because I just wanted to be done, And so I would just work through an entire book, do all the testing and get it taken care of and get through it. And so I ended up getting my diploma by the time I had turned 16. I just got it over with and got out there and started making.
Wow. I think it requires some self-discipline, right? To actually commitment.
A little bit, yeah. There's also a part where my dad would say that I was motivated by laziness, in a sense. Like I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to do schoolwork. So I don't know. Those two things I think intertwine sometimes, where the motivation of not wanting to do something can be just as motivating as wanting to do something.
Yeah,
right. And I just didn't want to do school anymore. I was having fun out at work. I was pretty independent as a 15, 16-year-old at that point. All my friends were still going to high school and they had to go do that stuff. And, I would have days off and I could go fishing and I had money. And it was a really great last few years of my teenagehood to be able to have that as opposed to the high school experience for me.
No, I mean, I bet. I think education is a pending thing we all have in the world to update. I think it's a super controversial topic, but if everyone could go at their own pace, I think finishing, I mean, if you think about games, of course, education is much more complex, but you can be in level one, another one I mean, same age could be level 2, 3, 4. You can study 8 hours a day, the other one 2. It's, I mean, you did it right. You said, hey, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do it anymore for one reason or, reason or motivation or the other. I mean, it doesn't matter. You just decided that you wanted to do things differently and you succeeded and here you are. So,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I mean, in a way, I started university early while I was in high school. Well,
Mhm.
more or less because of the same thing is like I just want to like start. I was super anxious. I just wanted to get started with it, and I did some things in parallel while I was in high school. It was exhausting, actually. Kind of fun to be like during the day in school and during the afternoon in the like university with older
Yeah.
people. It was like strange, but it's as you said, you need to have certain qualities and reasons to actually make progress in one aspect of your life. So I
Yeah.
love that. And did you go directly from that to the golf court, or how did you end up in golf?
Well, I had gone out golfing with my dad since I was little. I've loved all sports my entire life. As I've gotten older, golf is one of the few that I'm still physically capable of doing without hurting myself too bad. We grew up playing basketball and baseball and football and all of those things. I can't recover the way that I used to from, ankles and knees and things like that. But when like I mentioned, my first job was a dishwasher in that Italian restaurant. And my motivation, talking about it kind of sparked, was really about independence for me. My family was not well off growing up. My dad was a musician who also wasn't a big fan of higher education or going to college. So that also kind of opened that path to me of like, go ahead, right? You want to go to work and make some money, and it benefits the family and it benefits myself, to roll through that. And so, I worked at that restaurant. I worked at a jewelry store. I worked at another restaurant, and it was kind of wherever the opportunities came up, I always stayed open to be able to go and to learn about whatever that thing was that I had the opportunity to do. I was also a little restless at that age. Like I definitely had not decided on a career at 16 years old. And then I worked for my second boss, actually did floor, tile, and carpet installations. And so I apprenticed with him in Wisconsin, which is where I grew up, until I was 16 and moved to Florida. And he was that second boss that I had. And those first two bosses were just extraordinary. They were just great guys. They were unbelievably loyal. Even as a younger kid who could have gotten taken advantage of, or really just pounded to do the grunt work, they really helped me learn, and also learn how to take care of people. They were always the first ones there if something was going on, if I needed some extra money or there were things going on at the house and I needed time off. And what happened was that then I turned into that kind of employee who was willing to give of myself, and not about the money or the pay. And so that really instilled in me when we moved at 16. I had mentioned we moved to Florida. And so when I went looking for work down there, I really had an identity already at 16 years old of who I wanted to be in the workplace and how to succeed, and how I had seen both of these self-made men grow from a place of where they had been me, 20, 30 years before then, and had gone on to where one owned his own restaurant and one owned his own company in the trades. And so I really had these examples of, okay, like I can do this, right? And I see these paths, and it wasn't necessarily tied to, it has to be in the trades or it has to be in the hospitality industry. And so when I went to Florida, the best opportunity for me there was a landscaping company that I worked for a couple of years. And that was great. We'd get up really early and go out and do lawns and plant trees and create all kinds of beautiful things. And then in the afternoon, we'd get done early before it got really hot, and we'd go fishing every day, go out sailing. And so that's what I got to do from 16 to 20 years old, and just kind of live the life of a Florida beach bum, and work and have a really good time and have a lot of fun. and get to see and meet a lot of people. And that was a very cool experience to come out of that kind of into my adulthood with a lot of really good hard work for me, and knowing that I could do a range of skills, because within those jobs and companies, I'd always taken care of the labor parts, but also like I had learned about the bookkeeping and the accounting and the admin and all the parts that took to actually run the business while I was doing those things. And so I had this, foundation of knowledge to, again, like I said, just be open to opportunities as they arose.
That's awesome. And why do you think it's important to be like in every single aspect of the business and learn about a little bit about how every area works?
For me, dishwashing at a restaurant is pretty starter. I ended up going into the hospitality industry, where again, I took another job as a dishwasher because they did not have any positions open other than that. So I started at that restaurant again as a dishwasher. Within a couple months, I was, and this was me as an adult. Within a couple months, I had worked my way up to busboy. Within a couple months after that, I had worked my way up to the wait staff, and then I became a bartender and then a manager in training within a relatively short period of time. And that was because I gave 100%, regardless of what it was. If I was washing dishes, I wanted to be the best dishwasher. If I was the busboy, I wanted to be the best busboy. I wanted to be the best waiter. And not just in those comparables, because right in those industries, obviously there's scoreboards and all those sorts of things. But when I waited tables, right, I wanted my guests to have the best time that they could possibly have at our restaurant, right? And I took ownership of wherever I worked. Washing dishes, I took ownership of that. And it was important to me to do a good job. Bussing tables, it was important to me to do a good job because I knew it affected everyone else and that they depended on me for everything else to run. And I think that is something that had been instilled in me early too, was like every piece plays a very important part, right? And sometimes we only see the top people from the outside, right? Or the faces of the organization. And it's easy to forget about the dishwashers and the busboys. It's easy to forget about the guys in the warehouse who are loading and unloading trucks or doing parts work all day and just putting things together so that we get to be, forward facing in these organizations. I get to go golf now and talk to people and talk to customers and do some really, really cool stuff, but it never would happen without the guys in the warehouse, and speaking of the guys in the warehouse, when I came to BatCaddy about 3 years ago, I was the general manager at a plumbing company before I came here. And
You
that's
did have
its own story.
fascinated by these, like dishwashing, plumbing, landscaping. What didn't you do?
I don't know. My wife and I have a game that we play about what jobs did Paul not have. But I went through hospitality and I went through the trades. I ended up when I moved out to California, which is where I am now. I started painting houses in the city in San Francisco.
That helps, please.
Yeah, with a friend of mine who I met, and I had moved out here and it was great. And then playing basketball, I hurt my knee, so I couldn't work anymore. And that's also right around the time that I had my first son, who's 17 years old now. And so it worked out really well because I got some time off to just be with him after he was born. And it was a pretty incredible time, to have that time off work, not feel pressured, was really special for me. So that's, was a nice, I got to be a house dad too for a little while. So that was great.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And when I came back from my knee injury and I started working again, or started to look for work again, I should say, another friend of mine who owned a plumbing company jokingly said, "Hey, I've got some trenches to dig this weekend if you want to make some money." So I said, okay. So I went and I did that. We were digging trenches because they were using a brand new technology to repair sewer lines coming out of homes. That was really interesting, really forward thinking. It was a game changer as far as how those kinds of repairs were made. And it struck my interest. So I kind of took over that process for his company and learned how to do that and drove that section of his business for quite a while. I worked for them for 12, 13 years. And eventually I went from digging trenches to becoming a journeyman plumber, to becoming the general manager of that company for them. And so it's funny, you talk about like learning all the aspects of a company. You know, pretty much everywhere I've ever been, I started at the entry-level position, regardless of what skills or position I had, I should say, at the previous company that I worked for, or the previous people that I worked for. And so I think those skills and positions sometimes don't match up, right? And so there's a piece of humility almost to come say, hey, I have all these awesome skills, right? Whether it's personal skills or administrative skills or technical skills or physical skills. And to go, well, I have all these things, but I don't know how they fit into this industry or into this particular business. And so what I'm willing to do is start at the bottom. And when I came to BatCaddy, I went to work in the warehouse because there wasn't a position for a general manager at BatCaddy at that time. So I started working in the warehouse. I was packing boxes. I was putting parts together so that we could build caddies and send out accessories. I was putting mailing lists together, typing in labels. And from there, as we started to grow, which I know we'll talk about in a little bit, I was able to progress through and take on more responsibility as we grew and apply those skills that I had already had to our specific business. To the point of where I'm the director of marketing and distribution today, and I take care of our West Coast facility.
That's
here as
the
well.
heck of the story. I mean, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing this. And I'm fascinated by the fact that in every job that you had, you started in a, I don't know, in the, how do you say, in the started position, like junior position, and then you you managed to get to general manager in most cases, or on a C level, let's say, or close to a position, and that's awesome. But there's something that gets me thinking. Some people, as you, are naturally motivated to be the best waiter, to be the best dishwasher, to be the best general manager. But some people need inspiration. And now leading a team, and many years in your career now leading a team, how do you think that it's, what do you think that is the best way to inspire a team to do their best at what they do, no matter what they do?
I think it goes back to what you said. And right, I know what my motivations are, right, around independence, and now it's having time with my family, and how do I use my skills to arrange my work life so that all of those things can happen and I can keep growing. Not everyone has that same motivation, right? What I have learned is that everyone has a different motivation. And if I don't know, as the leader of the team, if I don't know what that motivation is, I will never be able to inspire them to whatever level they want to achieve, right? That's the other side of that equation, is that everyone also has their own level that they want to rise to where they're comfortable, right? And some people can get pushed beyond that comfort level to achieve more, and some people don't, and this is where they want to stay. And so I think those two pieces together, understanding what motivates the guys on our team, understanding where they want to be right now, are essential to encouraging them, and then giving them the skills or the time to be able to do those things. Right. So when I have my interactions and we do our team building and stuff, which mostly for us is communication. We don't do any specific team building exercises here, but we make a point of making sure that we're together and that we talk. And for me, I make a point of talking to the staff and finding out what's going on with them. Right? What are you doing? How are things going at home? How are you doing here? And that kind of, for me, goes back to the lessons I learned as a young man of these guys are important, right? They're really important. Without them, this whole thing falls apart. And so I have an immense amount of gratitude for those guys out in the warehouse, right? And I also have empathy and sympathy when things get hard, because I've been out in the warehouse. I know when things get stressful and when things get tough, what that feels like to be under that sort of pressure in kind of an unappreciated position almost, right? There's no glory in the warehouse, right? The glory that's in the warehouse is when I get to go out there and say, hey, spectacular job, guys. You guys are awesome, right? Thank you so much for doing that today. Right? You guys really kill it today, right? I'm buying you guys lunch, or we can take off early today, or whatever it may be, just to show my appreciation and my gratitude for those guys, right? And that is what inspires that. That's the circle, right? They see that we take care of them and that we know that they're important. And I think for most people, if they feel important, it's where they work, right? Like they're a valued piece of that company or whatever's going on, they're gonna work and they're gonna put more effort into it than they would otherwise if they thought they were just punching a clock and looking every hour to see that they made their next, 15, 20, $25, whatever. The amount doesn't matter at that point if somebody's just doing it for the money.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. That's very, I mean, what you do is really important and inspiring, and it's what many or every business owner and manager should be doing with their team, because if you don't make them feel as a part of a cause, of a mission, of success, uh, then what's the point for them, right? And
Yeah.
no, I mean that's awesome, and people do remember about those people when things go wrong. They say, "Oh, please call the chef in the restaurant. This tastes awful. Please call the whoever the manager, because this fork is not well, it's not clean enough." So people
Yeah.
remember when the delivery of an e-commerce store arrives late. Hey, I mean, this is delayed. So
Yeah.
they do remember when things go wrong, but when things go right, they don't, because it's the way things are supposed to be. And in a way,
Right.
we are all victims of that as customers. So that's
Sure.
why it's really important that internally companies recognize the hard work these people have, because inspiring them will create an end result that will inspire the customers to become loyal. It's not only about the marketing team, the ads that you create, or whatever you put on your website or social media. It's also the customer experience, and that starts with the logistics, fulfillment, and everything that goes behind scenes. The commerce is just the front end, right? But then, I mean, the website, but then all the rest of the things happen, and you don't know, but that's awesome, and I appreciate that. So, I mean, please talk a little bit more about BatCaddy now. What what does the company do precisely?
So right on. We sell electric powered golf push carts for golfers. So those are power assisted push carts that people can put their, I mean, see them here in our showroom. People can put their golf bag on the cart, and with a remote control, they can drive their bag around the course and walk without having to carry a bag, which for a lot of golfers is a real physical issue, especially as they get older. Um, the paradox is that the older I get, the bigger and heavier my golf bag gets, because there's more things I want to carry with me. And again, I'm not as fit as I used to be. I can still carry a bag around 18 holes, but I choose not to today because it's so much simpler. And for me as a golfer, it's a better way to play golf. I have a better game when I use what we have, our product, than if I don't, or if I ride in a cart.
When do you
And
think that?
that's
Why do you think it's better?
Golf was invented as a walking game. The architects who build golf courses build them in mind with people walking down the course and visually how they see them. One of the important elements of a golf course is illusion and making things look difficult when maybe they aren't so difficult, tricking the eye into thinking things are further away or closer than they are, is a key element of golf. And when you drive in a cart and you're going really fast and back and forth, you don't have the same thing happen as a golfer. You don't get to experience the golf course the way that the architects meant for them to be experienced. And from a player's side, being able to walk down the fairway and kind of be in that moment. One of my favorite things about golf is the peace for me that kind of comes with playing. There's a Zen element to golf when you're out there and walking down. And I mean, it's not always beautiful, but a lot of days it's pretty beautiful out there, and the birds are singing and the squirrels are running across the course, or here we have geese and deer. Right, when I was in Florida, we had alligators. And you get to play this game, right? with your friends, or even people you've just met, who usually by the end of the round are your friends. And you get to spend some time out there and just be connected. You get to be connected with these other people. You get to be connected with the planet. You get to challenge yourself. And you get that time in your head when you're walking, when you just, right? The challenge of golf is to not think sometimes. And so when you're just walking down the middle of the fairway, sometimes the biggest challenge is to be in the moment and to not be rehearsing these things and telling yourself stories, which in the grander scheme is really good practice for life and business, right? In life, for me, as a dad of 4 kids, and a pretty big extended family and a lot of things going on all the time, it's really easy to get lost in what might happen or what already has happened. But when I can be present in that moment, right, it really makes it simpler to just kind of walk through the day. And the same thing here at work. Right now, we are in the middle of our biggest, period for the year as far as volume, and everything's moving. There's chaos and there's things changing all the time. And it would be really easy to start projecting about, well, what's going to happen in 2 weeks, right? What's going to happen in 3 weeks? What if this happens? Or what if that happens? Or, oh man, this happened 2 weeks ago. And that doesn't really serve anybody's, it's no benefit to anyone. If I can be here today and walk through the issues that I need to take care of, or the projects that I have, and I do those things, and I stay present with it, not only am I in a much better space as a person, less frustrated and less stressed out, and I just get to do these things, and then I get to take that to the team too. And if that happens and they're stressed out or things are going crazy, it's simple for me to say, hey, like, it's okay, what do we need to do next, right? And there's an authenticity to it. I think that's probably the most, well, not I think, I believe that's the most valuable piece of any of those things that we've talked about so far, because anyone can say those words, right? Anyone can say, hey, calm down, right? Anyone can say, hey, I've been there. Anyone can say, hey, I really care about you, or hey, I'm going to buy you guys lunch, or you guys are really important to me. Anyone can say those words. I believe that my guys know that that's the truth for me, right? There's an authenticity to that because it really is what I believe. It really is who I am. And so that is a huge difference. I know for myself, I can usually tell when people are just saying the words, right? And it's almost worse than if they didn't say the words, right? Like, why even say them if you don't believe it? Now you're just being condescending to me, or what? Now you're just trying to leverage me. Like, all those thoughts start playing for me. And so, when in the different aspects of my career, when it's come to selling people things, right? Whether it was food, or I also sold water filtration systems in Florida. Any of these things, right? I worked at the mall for a little while, right? And I am not a high pressure guy, right? What I believe in is giving people information, right? Finding out about them, what they need, what they want, and then finding the things of whatever product I have or whatever service that I'm offering that meet those needs and wants, and doing a good job at communicating that to those people, and then letting them make a decision around what they want to do, and then fully supporting that decision, even if it's not the one that's the best for my bottom line, right? That's how I've created loyalty throughout the years with customers, with fellow employees, with bosses, with other staff members. That in general is just how I do business, right? If you want to say it that way, at work and in life. And so it's really important to me for the people that I deal with to have authenticity too, right? I'd rather deal with an authentic person and pay a little bit more than someone who I'm not sure of what their motivations and their agenda are any day,
Yeah, as you said, the team of any company is key to its success. So and it's funny, as you were earlier talking about the golf course and walking the course versus driving, and I was thinking, we are talking about business. Are we talking about business or golf? And it's, I mean, super similar, right? Because walking the company, we have discussed briefly about that already, but walking every aspect of a company, walking around, getting to know the aspects, the tricky things. of the course or of the company. So it's really important to walk the course and to walk your company as well. So that's awesome. And talking about the company a little bit more, um, I know the pandemic has transformed many things there. So, are there any key milestones that you're really proud of during that time, before or even after?
Yeah, and proud is a funny word. In 2019, our business was pretty flat from 2018. We had just started about putting in a 3 to 5 year plan to grow. We were using outdated software systems, which we knew we needed to update. Our staff was still a relatively small staff, but even smaller. And we knew to scale, we needed to start looking at people to help in varied branches. We wore a lot of hats back in 2019, as far as customer service and warehouse and internal and admin and webmaster and IT and all these, right, small business. And so we started putting these building blocks in place. And then the pandemic hit early 2020. And just as with everyone else, like everything died off, right? We had to furlough our employees. It was myself and the owner of the company who were just kind of coming in to keep the wheels moving and packing a couple boxes here and there, and just waiting to see what would happen. And we had no idea. And then April happened. And when things started to loosen up on the golf courses, right? They were some of the first places that everyone said it was okay for people to go back outside because they could social distance, but they could still go do this activity. And the golf industry exploded. Everyone in the industry sold everything they had, everything. Their starter sets, push carts, pull carts, our bat caddies, golf bags, golf clubs. I mean, it was gone, right? We had a huge influx of new golfers into the industry, as well as people who were kind of on the fringes were now buying new equipment. Or in our case, the biggest piece for us that really pushed what we do, because up until then, we're still pretty niche, right? Like not widespread. People kind of looked at our product like, I'm going to ride or I'm going to carry because that's what I do. And that's what they knew. When courses took away the carts, right, they're like, well, you can't ride in the carts because we can't share. They didn't have sanitizing going on, right? And so people who wanted to play had to walk. Well, we kind of go back to that place where there's a lot of golfers out there who can't carry a 30-pound golf bag for 6 or 7 miles. It's physically, they can't do it, whether it's because of age or physical limitations or surgeries that they've had, or it's no fun, right? Like who carries around 30 pounds for 7 miles for fun? Golfers, that's it. So, right, they're the only ones, And so for us to be able to provide people a power assisted option to walk and to play was a boon. I don't think I've used that word in a long time, but it was a boon. And so anything that we could get in the warehouses was immediately sold. We were sold out of pre-order after pre-order after pre-order after pre-order, which accelerated that 3 to 5 year plan to 6 months to scale to meet the demand. And so everything began at one time. We had to hire staff for the warehouse. We had to hire staff for help desk. We had to hire staff for admin. We had to hire staff and this is for 2 locations. We have a West Coast location in California, and we have an East Coast location in Pennsylvania. And so we had to put all that together. Our first mass pre-order that we were able to do broke our software system. In the middle of the biggest sale day the company had ever had, by leaps and bounds, our software system crashed because it couldn't handle it, which we knew prior to that it couldn't handle that type of volume, but we had no option at that point because it happened so fast. So when that happened, basically everything went on the fly then. We looked and integrated our brand new software. We integrated all of our in-house stuff, help desk. In our software now, we're on a proprietary software that is for our warehouse. It's for our inventory. It's our help desk. It takes care of everything. And so we're on the tail end of tying in some of those last little bits and pieces of that software even now. As we put the most important pieces to deal with what we were going through at that point, as far as order taking and labels. And I mean, up until that day, we had been typing labels in by hand for certain things to ship out, and which was okay, because for those certain things, there wasn't enough volume to put enough pressure on that. Well, we should really have the label maker kick those out.
Yeah.
And so that happened. And it's been, the last year has been pretty insane here. And going back to what you said, I think my experience, from having been in the warehouse, and on days when we were crazy, I'd be back in the warehouse helping pack and getting product out because we needed it, right? If something breaks down in our software, which of course we all know, when you integrate brand new software, it works perfectly from the right away, right? So every day when there were bugs or something didn't connect or the printer wasn't connecting, or right, we went through all of that. And because I've been there, like I also have the practical knowledge, or had the practical knowledge at that point, to be able to assist and help us move through those things, which if I hadn't done that, like you can always figure it out, right? Eventually, or the right person to call or all those things. But under the stress of the volume that we were under, those things were crucial for us to be able to get through that part. So I was really grateful again to have had the experience out there to just know, okay, here's what we need to do next to move through this situation. Or having been the one to help do the integration and done the old way, understand where the gaps were, to go, okay, I'll fill this gap right now so that we can just get over the hump. Because neither one of these systems are going to work. That's always my favorite part. The old system doesn't work anymore because it can't cope, but the new system isn't quite integrated the right way yet, so you can't use that either. So what do we do, right?
I'm fascinated by the way that, I mean, how the pandemic has changed many industries, businesses, everything, right? And everyone and everything needed to adjust to the new normal, the new reality. For instance, you said the golfers who didn't want to walk now, they didn't have any other option, right? Back then, last year, so they needed to either carry the whole thing or get one of your products. So yeah, I mean, it's awesome how it accelerates plans and how you need to be prepared, and even to work under stress, unprepared, and you can figure things out anyway. And that's good that uh, you went through that together as a team, and that you could grow again. So that's awesome. So that's not, I think, all for I mean, about surprises for BatCaddy. You're now introducing like something awesome to the audience. So would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this month, we're going to be introducing custom colored caddies, which for the options that are out there, there's some of caddies that you can, right now we offer 3 colors, silver, black, and white. And some of our competitors out there also have a couple, basic color options. What we've done is we've worked out a partnership to where we're going to be able to offer golfers over 4 million possible color combinations of our caddies. There's nothing else like it out there. Everybody likes to have a little personality on the course, or I should say, most of the people I golf with like to have a little personality on the course. And so we're rolling this out and we're really excited about it. There's over 2,000 color options for each caddy, and that would be for the frames. And then also on our flagship model, the X8R, you can choose the color for your wheel sets as well. So that's another 2,000 color options there. So you can have a electric powered golf caddy out there that it's yours, it's personalized, and it's full automotive grade paint. The warranty on it's spectacular. They're really going to be a game changer for the industry, for powered caddies out there to be able to do that.
Wow, I didn't know even there were so many colors, like 2,000 plus colors. It's that. So that's amazing. And he said something interesting, like some people want, I don't know, the new phone, the new watch, the new whatever, but
Yeah.
some other people, they just want to feel unique.
Mhm.
So that means that you listen to your audience. And I'm curious, how do you come up with this new feature? Did you survey your audience? Did you come up with that internally? How does it work?
We have had requests in the past and talking to different customers who want something different, right? Again, when you're out there and it all kind of starts to look the same, I mean, you see from people's bags or even just regular push carts where you always notice the guy with the bright red or the bright orange wheels out there on the course, right? Driving golf carts, especially when I lived in Florida, everyone had their own golf cart and it was their own cart. Like they didn't look like the ones that you rent at the golf course, right? They were fancy, right? And individualized. And so for us, there's only so much technology that you can put into one of these carts that's actually beneficial for the golfer, right? You can add all kinds of bells and whistles and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, it's about like, I want to play my game.
Yeah.
And if, when I put on my good golf shirt, right? When I put on my fancy outfit and I feel good out there, right? When my equipment looks good, I feel good, right? And my golf caddy is a part of my equipment, right? It's golf equipment. And so when that looks good and I like it. And so we had always kind of had that bent and it took us a little while to figure out the best way to do the application and to be able to produce it with consistency and in the way that we wanted to do it. And the other part, and I keep looking at them, we have them all over the place, is that how do we, again, differentiate ourselves from our competition, right? Moving forward, like I said, there's only so much that we can do technology-wise. So where else can we meet the customer, right? We talked earlier about the wants and the needs. Well, we have all the needs are met, right? Our base core product meets all the needs of a golfer who wants to walk and doesn't want to carry their bag. So now we're on to wants, right? Well, I want custom colors for my caddy, right? I know professional athletes who want a caddy in their team colors from the team that they played for, right? It opens up markets for us that it wouldn't otherwise open up, and that's kind of the cool thing too. There's a lot of opportunities out there for themed colors with golf caddies that wouldn't be there if they were just silver or black. So that's really, the PGA show is in January. Starting next week, we're going to ramp up our rollout to the PGA show. And then in 2022, we're really going to push hard into that market. And we're really excited about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I can get a new phone, right? But what other things can they add that actually help me? I mean, with the basic things that I want to do, send emails, calls, WhatsApp, or whatever. So as you said, you can add all the weasels and all the stuff, but in the end, it's like, how do you differentiate from your competitors? How do you add value to your customers? How you make them feel different, right? Anyone can have a caddy or an electric caddy, but can they have their own customized caddy? They say, oh, this is Richard's, this is John's, this is so. That's awesome. So before we wrap up, I mean, besides all the, let's say, education via mail, and then all the experience that you have in 1,000 different job types, I'm going to remember this forever because it's a fun fact, but also super useful because I personally come from the background of computer science, and I know how that has helped me in the marketing aspect for paid ads and all stuff. So I know that every single lesson that you learn outside the current job that you're at will be useful somehow at some point of your career and plays a huge role in the way you think and see things. So that's awesome. So besides all of that, do you have any books that you have loved or have helped you get through a phase of your life or achieve whatever you wanted back then?
Yes, absolutely. A formative book for me. I believe I was 15 or 16 when I read it. It was Dale Carnegie's book, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People, which of course, is pretty widespread out there. And the core tenet of that book, it really struck me at that age around everyone wanting to feel important, and not in the, like, I'm the best, or I'm super awesome, or you guys, think I'm super cool type way, but in the way that I mean something to people. Like, I mean something to you. I'm important to you as a human being. And it really clicked with me. And it helped me understand that. And at the same time that those first people that I worked for, they were those people, right? They made me feel important, right? On a personal level and on the business level, right? And so I flourished. I worked really hard for those guys, and they gave me the opportunities to keep flourishing. And when it was time for me to walk away from those opportunities and go do something else, they shook my hand and gave me a hug and said, good luck, right? Thanks for your time here. And throughout my life, personal and business, which for me is a really blurred line, especially now working at a place where I get to play golf and I get to meet people and I get to do a lot of really cool things. If I want to establish a relationship with you, and I have very few relationships that are just work, right? We tend to have friendships, and what I try and do is find out what's important to you as an individual, who you are as an individual, and what that means for me, right? Whether it's a staff member here, an employee, or the owner. If you genuinely are important to me, right? Like we talked before, anyone can say the words, anyone can say, well, you're important to me, right? But for the guys here, they know that they are important to me.
Yeah.
Right. And I've had to sit with that and go, well, he's important to me because this is what he means to me. Right. This is what he does. Like that guy in the warehouse right now who's out there packing BatCaddies is allowing me to have the job that I have today, which allows me to have the family that I have today, which allows me to provide the things that I provide for my kids today. Like we are all in that person's debt, right? He is a vital part of my existence here on this planet right now, which is really cool, right? And we all get to see those circles if we look for them. And that book really, it struck home to me that that is the key to all of our relationships, and opportunities happen when you build and foster those relationships, right? I work at BatCaddy because I fostered a relationship with someone, not because I got headhunted or recruited or anything like that. I was working for a plumbing company, right? There is no connection there in just everyday life. And so, I'm grateful for that book, that it opened my eyes to the human connection part and about the effects, right? Like, I think I always understood that, but that book was so good at showing the effects of how it worked afterwards. It was really powerful to me, so I owe a lot to Carnegie.
Awesome. People need to feel listened, and you need to listen to people to actually do something useful, right? Human connections are everything in work and personal life. So yeah, it's all about that. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. And I know the book. I didn't read it, so it will be in my, let's say, list soon to read. So yeah, I have some down the road to read, but I will add that to my list for sure. So yeah, this has been awesome. I really had fun. And where can people go to find more about you and the brand?
www.batcaddy.com.
Awesome. Paul, thanks for being on the show. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brian. A good time.